Members will open up for questions. Kelly, your light's on.
First, thank you for your testimony. It was really powerful, every one of you. And, you know, I just hate what you had to describe. It should not be happening in our country. And I'm amazed because I've been doing religious liberty work for 37 years. And I saw this start to get worse. We have synagogue cases all over the country. They just want to build a synagogue. They just want to have their synagogue. And the attacks are just unbelievable. But I've seen more. It started before October 7th. So this was building before that as well. But I just want to thank you for coming and giving testimony. And Coach Pearl, I also want to say something. There was an incident at Auburn. There was a large, at night, after work hours, a large event at one of the auditoriums led by the students, and a few of the coaches were attacked, Coach Freeze and Coach Pearl, by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, saying that they shouldn't allow that. It's like, people can go to whatever religious service they want to at night, but I just want to thank you because when you first called me, when Coach Freeze first called me for legal help and making sure there was no problem, the first thing you both said is, I'm not going to back down from my faith, no matter what I'm told, no matter what the consequences. And I thank you for that stance. That's what we need to keep religious freedom. And I want to thank you for your example, your leadership, and standing for religion. I think that was a big Christian gathering, and you stood with all those people in that gathering. And then the last thing I'll say, just if anybody has any ideas, I've been trying to write down any recommendations, and I know there's a mention of enforcing civil rights. If there's any new particular policy law that is not already covered that you have to mind, let us know about that. Anybody on the panel as well. Thank you.
Bruce Pearl.
It was an honor to have my foundation and my family help sponsor about 9,000 kids worship in an auditorium, hear testimony and witness, and about 250 of them jumped in the water and got baptized that night. I got criticized from some in the Jewish community for proselytizing. I'm a basketball coach. Most of my kids are Christian. I've got a few Jewish kids on my team, but I have always had a team pastor, and I want my kids to get closer to the Lord. There is a revival going on in this country, and I think it's actually going to save our country, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But my message, and you know, so it was amazing. That event's called Unite, and Tanya and Chad Pruitt have taken that event all throughout the country, and it's wonderful. This may be uncomfortable to hear, but again, my job is to bring people together, players together from different types. Abraham is the father of all, you know, for me, being in a Christian world, I'm always talking to my Christian friends. I'll say, so, who are you having over for Passover this year? And they'll say, Coach, you know, we're not Jewish. I said, you're always telling me you want to be more like Jesus. All the time you want to be more like Jesus. Jesus celebrated Passover every year of his life, right? He held the door open for Elijah. Why aren't you celebrating Passover? And again, it's a way of obviously, you know, connecting us. I tell people all the time, do you know the two most popular Jews in Alabama are? Me and Jesus. These things connect us. They connect us. I believe that we should embrace them. I think it just brings us closer together. And I do remind people that 12 Jewish men died horrific deaths bringing Christianity to the world. Those are facts. Read your Bible. Again, these are things that should unite us. And you're right, guys, we have allies. We have friends. But for such a time as this commission and this country has got work to do.
Can I quickly add to that policy?
Sure, Bruce.
Yeah, so the answer is kind of yes and no as it pertains to policies that already exist and the new policies. So the laws on the books are actually pretty good. The problem was, especially with the last administration, they were just objectively never enforced. So when the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the civil rights offices refuse to enforce the laws, then it's irrelevant how strong the laws are if they're not being enforced. So for example, President Eisenhower, after Brown v. Board of Education, told racist schools in the South, if you do not integrate your schools, we will cut off all federal funding to those schools. And interestingly enough, the segregationists use the argument that Harvard University is using now, which is that is going to affect innocent white students who did nothing wrong. And President Eisenhower's response was, that's too damn bad. Make sure you have black kids in your class on Monday. And lo and behold, that's exactly what they did, and they did not get a single penny in federal funds being cut. President Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden did the exact same thing with college campuses. They said in 2014 that 1 in 3 women would experience some form of sexual harassment on campuses. Therefore, they had a whole college tour, and they told these colleges, if you do not eradicate the systemic and pervasive nature of sexual harassment, we will cut off all federal funding. And lo and behold, all of the colleges reported plans to the federal government as to what they would do to combat sexual harassment. President Trump has done the exact same thing, but for whatever reason, he's wrong to do it now, even though there's strong precedent of American presidents doing that thing. The expenditure of federal dollars is also a manifestation of our values. We value religious liberties, we value religious freedoms, so much so that we are not going to fund institutions if they violate those things. So in terms of the policies on the books, I think a lot of them are pretty good. The things that can be improved is we have a great Secretary of Education. Hopefully she'll be the last Secretary of Education for the Department of Education. That's a conversation for another time. And under Section 117 of the Higher Education Act, she has produced and streamlined the amount of foreign funding coming in from, foreign actors. The problem is we don't know what we don't know. So, for example, Yale University was underreporting how much they were receiving from Qatar by $25 million alone. Qatar is the largest state sponsor of American institutions of higher learning. There should be a blanket ban on foreign adversaries funding our campuses. So, for example, there are so many Chinese communists at Harvard University, and this is true, there's a Wall Street Journal on this, that the Chinese Communist Party literally refers to the Harvard Kennedy School, which is their School of Public Policy and Government, as, quote, the party school. Chinese communists or individuals who work against American interests should not be allowed on American campuses for any reason. They should not be allowed to donate money to American campuses for any reason. So that would be one example of new policies that we should be looking into. Why is it that the Chinese communists or Islamic nations know that the secret to undermine the United States is to sort of politically indoctrinate young people? We have to recognize that as well and get those who do not believe in American values off our campuses and out of our country as fast as possible.
Okay. I'll just quickly add, no one threatened me with a sword, and maybe we'll get fencing Shabbos lessons. But at the encampment, there was a student who came out of the encampment, stood behind Jews, including me, with the inverted red triangle, is on camera throwing punches at Zionists, has given interviews where she says it's cool to punch Zionists. UCLA says we can't discipline these students because they're masked. A real mask ban, an enforced mask ban, would clear up a lot of problems.
If I can just add one.
Yes, sir, Rabbi.
It's so important that when we talk about new policies, and it's important to do with the stick, but we also have to have the carrot. It's important to focus on everything that the universities should not be doing, but actually coming around with a coalition of universities that are transmitting American story and American values right matters. And I've said this to the Secretary of the Department of Education directly, even when it comes to international students. International students coming to universities aren't good or bad. It depends what universities they go to. If they go to universities that teach them to hate America, then that's bad. But when they go to universities that teach them to love America, that's actually good. And we have thousands of foreign students. I just had a group of South Korean students. They came to Yeshiva University. They wrote me a note. They said, "Dear President Berman, we love Yeshiva. We stand with Israel." Now, we never told them to stand with Israel. We told them to love America. And they know when you love America, you naturally will stand with Israel. And this is part of our education. And we need to gather, coalesce, and reward those universities that are actually transmitting the American story and American values. That is essential for policy that this group, and this hasn't been done yet, that this group can uniquely recommend and further to help strengthen America.
Dealing with the question or the issue of